to Sugar Mama's Fireplay. I am your host, financial planner, Canna Campbell, and today I am absolutely honoured to be joined by someone who has a truly inspiring story filled with determination, intentional choices, and financial transformation. From working in the mines with her husband to becoming mortgage-free, building a $1.8 million home and investing for the future. This woman has shown what is possible with courage, sacrifice, and vision. I am absolutely thrilled to be able to share her journey with you right now, and most importantly, the lessons that we can all learn from it and apply today. Lindsey, thank you so much for coming on to Sugar Mama's Fireplay. I always like to start these episodes when I'm interviewing real people and their incredible stories is to ask how they really are, not a surface level, hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. But how are you going? Like, how is 2025 looking for you?
Hi, Canna. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's one of my favourites. I'm honoured.
Thank you.
2025 is amazing for us so far. We are in a great place as a couple and as a family with our 2 children. And yeah, I'm amazing. Thank you.
It's so nice to hear something, a positive answer, an uplifting answer, and an inspiring answer, because the world feels like a very heavy place right now. So yes, it's good to hear, people like yourself are doing well. And I'm sure it's not without hard work and sacrifices, but it's good to hear it's not hard for everyone. So thank you for sharing that. I am so desperate to share your story because it's so incredibly motivating. And I feel like a lot of us need to hear this right now, especially as, we're getting towards the end of 2025 and our motivation levels are flatlining. We maybe lost a bit of faith. We've got some old habits creeping back in, or we just basically about to throw the towel in. I feel like you're going to inject a whole pile of, youth energy and vitality into us, which we all need. Can we start from the very, very beginning when you and your husband got together? And I think you mentioned to me that you were, earning $55,000 a year. I'd love to hear about who started the conversation around money and how that conversation was begun, like what questions ignited it, because couples that approaching that topic of money for the first time, can make you really shy. It's intimidating, it's scary, but also it's really important to have these conversations. Like, how did this begin for you two?
Yeah, they sure are important conversations. We got together and I was working as a office admin at an accounting firm and I was making $55,000. My boyfriend, husband now, was on about the same as a bricklayer. We knew really early on in our relationship that we were going to be a good couple and we were going to last. And we actually did have conversations very early on. They were sparked by there were some gambling problems in one of our families and also some employer issues with superannuation and a couple of other things. So it was quite easy to start conversations about it. And we just knew we didn't want to take the same, go down the same line as some of the people that we knew had gone down. And so early on we discussed money, our future, what we wanted to do. We knew we both wanted to have kids, which was a really important topic to both know when we were, because I was 25 and my boyfriend was 27 when we got together. So we knew that we wanted to do that. So we kind of just had these conversations naturally, like, well, one day I want to have kids, no time soon. And he was like, so do I. And it was the same with money. We just brought it up. It's never been a subject that we couldn't openly talk about. And we just had conversations about we knew where, like, that we wanted to buy a house and things like that. So we quite quickly, it was probably about 6 months in, I guess, we moved in together. He was renting a house, and when I say we're lucky, we've worked very hard, and I hate you're lucky, but we were lucky to have a lot of these. He was renting a farmhouse for $60 a week, which is ridiculously cheap. and then we went on to house sit a doctor's house for 6 months, which was this amazing big 2-story house, but that cost us nothing. And then we lived in my boss's old, very, very old house. I think it wasn't rentable, but we lived in that for $50 a week. So we had about 18 months together in our relationship where we paid almost nothing for living expenses. So we did have the opportunity to save a lot of money together. And I actually had a little house that I'd bought with an ex-boyfriend that I had taken over when things went south. And I was renting it out because I didn't want to live there. And we discussed quite early, I'd say it was about 6 months after we'd been together. I was selling my house for not much profit. I ended up coming out with $25,000 after paying the solicitors and all the conveyancers and the real estate and the mortgage. And then quite quickly he had saved about the same amount. So then we had $50,000 deposit to buy a block of land we decided on.
Wow. And like, how did that come about? Like, did he say, like, we should buy a block of land, or
when we were having the conversations about saving money together, and the other reason we decided to joint money as well, was we were getting a little bit sick of because we're going out all the time, as you do when you're, newly together. We go out for breakfast and he'd pay, and then I'd be like, okay, I'll pay next weekend. And it just got a bit annoying. I'd go and buy some groceries and then he'd be like, okay, well, I'll buy next week's groceries. And it just got like we were always trying to be even, and it just got annoying, and we were just like, this is too much admin in our minds, and it was just easier to join, and we were doing nearly everything together anyway. So that's when we had the conversation about joining our money, and we just opened joint bank accounts, and we still had our own bank accounts that our pays went into, and then we'd transfer into savings and stuff. And it's just never been a hard conversation because it's just always been a conversation that we've had.
And a conversation that's based around something exciting, like, saving up for land, like it's all positive. And then you moved across the country to work in the mines. Like, what drove that choice? And I guess, like, how did you come to that point to go, yep, we've got to do this? Like, it's a bold move moving across the country.
Yeah. So we bought our block of land in 2010, and we knew we wanted to live here. We're a couple of hours south of Sydney. It's a beautiful town. And at the time we couldn't afford, we probably could have, but we didn't want to spend the money to buy a house because we didn't want to get into that much debt. So we bought our block, and we thought, well, we were living in one of the houses at the time, the $60 a week house. And we thought we'd pay off some of the debt, save some money, and then build a house. And then when we were getting quotes and we actually had plans drawn up, and we got quotes, and we're kind of like, do we really want to get into this much debt at this age? We want to travel. We want to go, we wanted to do a Europe trip. There were lots of things we wanted to do. And we just were feeling a little bit almost like stale. And we had a discussion about one day we are going to have children, and we never wanted to have them. We wanted to have them in our early 30s. And we were kind of like, that's only 5-6 years away. When we have kids, we didn't want me having to work. If you want to work, it's different, full time, but we didn't want to have, me having to work because we had to because of this mortgage. And then we went on a little holiday, and we just were feeling really inspired. And there were TV ads for come to Western Australia and drive a dump truck. And we were having a game of pool and a couple of drinks. We'd gone down to the snow skiing, and this ad came on the TV, and we'd been talking about, because we were feeling a little bit stale and like we wanted to do something different. And we talked about going overseas and living overseas for a couple of years and working. And then we were kind of like, yeah, but we didn't want to go backwards financially. So we were like, why don't we try and get a job in the mines? So we basically in the next 2 months, we packed everything up. I resigned from my work. He resigned from his with enough notice to get everything sorted. And I had long service leave because I'd been at my job for 10 years. He had the Builders Corporation long service leave as well. Wow. And then we had some annual leave and stuff that got paid out, and we ended up having about $30,000 in our bank account, and we still had a mortgage on our block. So we were paying a mortgage, and we just took off and we camped. We did a road trip to Perth, so from east to west. We ended up taking about 6 to 8 weeks to get there. I can't exactly remember the time frame. So this was 2012. And we camped all the way, basically spent not much money, just had a great time sightseeing. And we got there and we worked really hard to get a traineeship. We must have applied, I was thinking about it this morning, for about 40 jobs, which is like between us, obviously. But it's not one application, it's two. But it was a full-time job trying to get in, but we were, again, lucky, but we were lucky at the timing that we arrived in Perth, because there was a big, there were a lot of jobs going, and we ended up getting a traineeship in Kalgoorlie. So the aim was always to get a job fly in, fly out, because that's where the bigger money is. But to get in, we moved to Kalgoorlie. So we moved out there, which is about a six hours directly east of Perth. And we did a traineeship in it's called the nickname's the Super Pit, Kalgoorlie Consolidated Gold Mine, it's called. And we had the best time. So we did a traineeship driving dump trucks, and it was amazing. And then we stayed on there for a year after our 6-month traineeship. And then my boyfriend was quite settled in Kalgoorlie, and he really enjoyed it, and so did I. But I remember saying to him, we came here to make money, get your head around it. What do you think? Like, we're going. And then, it took a bit of a push because he was quite settled. But I said to him, we didn't come over here to live here forever and we were still making good money, but we wanted to make the big bucks. So we got a job with BHP and moved from Kalgoorlie to Perth, and we worked fly in, fly out, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, up in the Pilbara. And like it was challenging, but we absolutely loved it. And that was what we'd gone to Western Australia to do. That was that we got our dream job. So we were just so excited. And and we were working together. We were hired as a couple. So it was amazing, and like really looked after. And then we did that for 3 years, and 2 weeks on, 1 week off. It's a pretty good roster when you're with your partner, because you're working a lot, but we were together all the time. Like, it's really hard on families where the husband or wife works away. It's really tough roster. But because we were together all the time, it was great. And in that time, we did a lot of traveling. We had our big Europe trip that we always wanted, and we lived out of our car in Western Australia for a year because we got a bit sick of renting. So we ended up traveling around and working, and then just traveling all around WA. And we just had the best time and saved a lot of money while we were doing it.
Can I just go back for a second?
Yeah.
You mentioned you and your husband applied for 40 jobs.
So roughly,
20 each. How did you deal with the knockbacks? I mean, eventually it all worked out okay because you are where you are today, but, that would have been at times really confronting, humiliating, embarrassing, like having to apply for so many. A lot of people, would have really hit their mental health. Like, how did you guys cope with it?
It was actually really tough, and we didn't even get knocked back. We just didn't get anything. They just ignore you basically.
And
it was hard. And I'd say, I mean, because it was so long ago now, I'd say we probably took about 6 weeks maybe of just try, and then I'd get someone's phone number and I would be on the phone just basically harassing them. And then
so you were seriously determined.
We were determined. Yes, we were very determined. And we actually had a really good time too as unemployed people in Perth. We weren't spending money because we were very conscious of not spending money because we didn't have any money coming in and we had a mortgage. But we were also enjoying the, beaches, and we had a great time. But it was it was really hard. And Yeah, I think that's because we had no experience at all. But the attractive thing about us was we were a couple and they like couples because I'm not sure why. It's just the
Well, I
stability
mean,
maybe.
yes, I say the
Mm,
stability and, you're both properly invested. If you've both moved, you're both
yes.
committed, and that's hard to find if you're good quality staff.
Yes, and we'd
With
already made the move to Perth, which they I don't think that mining companies take you too seriously if you're in, like we were in New South Wales, if you're like, oh
mm,
yeah, we will move if we get a job. We were there and we were ready to start.
yeah. Oh,
Mm,
wow. No, that would have been impressive. And then
yeah.
with the lifestyle, like, okay, you're earning good money, working in the mines. How like how did you not let their lifestyle creep take over? Because I know a lot of people who've done this and they've actually their lifestyle's gone up and they're actually not really saving any more money than what they did before they started working in the mines. Like how did you like stay focused and have a healthy mindset and obviously stay on track of your goals without succumbing to this?
So we always went there with a plan. We always had like a 5-ish year plan. And we really never let the lifestyle creep in at all. We, except for travel, we did spend a little extra money on travel that we probably wouldn't have had to spend before. But
Mm,
and we were working, because we were working so much, we had 1 week off and we would just, rest and enjoy. And, we were younger, so we were going out a little bit, having a few drinks and stuff. But we just really enjoyed our time. And because we weren't at home, we were somewhere else, so we were sightseeing. But we just never we always had the goal of, we wanted to pay off our debt, save a lot of money, build up, superannuation and stuff. And we worked with a lot of people who had worked in the mines for quite a long time and almost had nothing. So we had a lot of examples of what not to
what not
do
to
as well.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just always had our eye on what we wanted and had the plan and stuck to it.
And then with the savings, obviously you were able to save a lot of money in this particular part of your life. Like, how did you manage the budget? How did you manage the cash flow? How did you agree on, how much would go into a savings account? Like the logistics of savings. How did you really make sure that you prioritized saving successfully together as a couple?
Yeah, we've never really had a budget, to be honest, like a spreadsheet or something that we um, go by, but we've always had a bills account, which is how much and it's a lot more now with a family. But we've always had an account that we put money into for health insurance and all of that stuff that comes out. Um, but we'd pay when we still had our mortgage, for our block of land, we'd pay our mortgage. We had no car loan. We didn't have any other loans. And then while we were renting for a little while, we'd pay our rent. And then the rest would just go straight into our savings. And we'd obviously have some fun money, but the rest would just go into our savings. And we just did that every fortnight that we got paid. And that's just what we did. And then we've always had accounts. So if we were saving up for a holiday, or we've always had holiday account or whatever we wanted to do, that was separate. But it's just always been about open, clear communication with us.
Yeah, it's so important.
Always, yeah.
The foundation, I think. And then, so you're working in the mines, you're saving up. Where do you go through from here? Like cash, you got cash, lots of cash, and great cash flow.
Mm.
Like where did you then land?
So we had been working for about bit over 18 months when we paid off our block of land. And
It's unbelievable.
yeah, we were very focused. And then I still remember the transaction when we got paid and we were sitting on our lounge. We were living in Fremantle at the time in a little apartment. And when we transferred the last, however much it was, $5,000 onto our mortgage, and we were just like, oh my goodness. And then we rang my mum and dad. We're like, we paid off our block. It was very exciting. And then
how important it is to celebrate those moments,
yes.
as well as obviously start them. Like I think a lot of people at the moment, and why a lot of us feel so heavy and burnt out and frustrated, is we are so absorbed by the struggle that we forget to actually look at the progress and celebrate those little wins.
I agree.
And by the way, paying for mortgage is not a little win; it's a huge win.
Well, they were very proud as well. So mum and dad were really proud as well. And then we just opened a high interest bank account and just started putting away. We used to save roughly $5,000 to $6,000 a fortnight. So we were making, about $8,500 together after tax per fortnight. And then we would just save about $5,000 to $6,000 of that money. And when we were away up at work, we would have no expenses except for things like health insurance and, car insurance and those things that don't change. But we would have no electricity, food, rent, anything like that. And those fortnights that we were working and had nothing, we would almost save all of our money. We'd probably spend about $60 on a couple of six packs of
beer.
Beer or whatever. It was just quite easy, to be honest, because we were just both focused, open communication, and we had our eye on the prize.
Would you say that there are any particular sort of financial habits or systems that you stuck by that actually also helped make this so much easier?
It was easy for us because, like I said, we didn't have many expenses. Like when I look at our life now compared to then, now we have children. We have so many more expensive. Food is so much more expensive. Electricity is so much more expensive. All of that kind of stuff. Where then, because our expenses were so low and we were making good money together and we had no loans or anything, it was just easy because we were just both on the same page always.
But were there particular habits like, doing a budget and checking your savings and doing automatic transfers or manual transfers or, having a date night, money night? Like, were there any particular practical habits that you had as well, or everything was just organic and flowed?
I guess the habit we had was every fortnight when we got paid, we'd sit down together and do it. Yeah, wow, we'd always, and we still do that now. We sit down together and we go, okay, so we spent this on this and transfer that. We pay for everything on credit card. We pretty much always have because we like the points. Yeah. So it's like we paid for this, so we'll transfer the $500 to the credit card, and we just discuss it. And then we go, okay, we've got $6,500 left this fortnight. Okay, well, let's put $1,000 towards our Europe holiday and the $5,500 towards our house. So we had all the different accounts. But I guess the only habit we really had was just doing it together and always discussing it.
But that's a very powerful habit, that sitting down meticulously on the fortnight is incredible. And now that makes a lot of sense, received. And even at the time, you probably just don't even realize that how it's helped serve you guys.
Yeah.
And also, obviously you and your husband are very much aligned and you're both very, very focused. Have you ever had like a challenge that's come your way or like a pivotal moment in your life where you had to make a big decision where you had different opinions?
I wouldn't say too much we'd had different opinions, but I was definitely raised more, you pay off your mortgage, you kind of waste money, even though I don't think traveling is wasting money at all. But no. I was definitely raised much more strict when it came to money, where my husband was definitely raised a bit more, they went on many more holidays than what I did when I was a child. And he'd been, to Europe and America before he was 10 and lots of trips to the Gold Coast and things like that. And he was definitely raised a little bit more like you only live once, where I was raised like pay everything, don't have fun because that sounds very strict, but so we've
more of a balance.
Yeah. So, but we've come together and attitude towards it, we've kind of meshed it together. So now it's like we have so much fun, but we're really responsible with our money as well. Yeah, so we've kind of complemented each other, both brought in a different angle of money and what you do with it. And I think we've really, come up with a really good solution of fun, but being financially responsible as well.
Of course. And then, okay, so you've got the block of land, which you've now paid off, like what happened from there? What did you do? Like,
so we also bought another block of land. So it was always my husband's dream to have a house down at the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. And he'd been looking on real estate for ages in the area that he wanted, that he liked. And this block came up and it was 100,000 for over 1,000 square meters. Wow. Great spot you could see the mountains, you could see the lake. And he's like, should we duck home and check it? And I was like, oh, to go home and check it, it's going to cost at least $5,000 for flights and accommodation and driving down there, hire a car. I was like, let's just buy it. And he's like, righto. We literally bought it 2 weeks later.
Unseen.
Yeah, we were just like, what could go wrong? We ended up getting it for $87,000 because they could. Blocks were quite hard to sell then for some reason. It wasn't a very popular area. So we just kind of sat on that, we borrowed money for that. And then we ended up paying that off as well in the process. And then I can't remember the exact time frame that we paid that off. It was while we were still working in the mines anyway, a couple of years. And then, we saved about 300 odd thousand towards building our house. And then I left the mines in late 2016, pregnant with that. We got married in 2016, and then late 2016, I left the mines pregnant with our little girl. So I went on to maternity leave for a couple of years, and I was never going to return, but just took the maternity leave. And then we built our house. So we ended up borrowing the money that we'd paid off our block of land, and about, I don't know exact figures, but about 150,000. And then we had the money that we'd saved up and we built our house.
Wow.
We own and build our house because my husband's a bricklayer, so he was able to do a lot of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. As you can see, the brick wall behind me.
And then, so where to from there? Because you invest in shares as well, and
we weren't investing then. I wish it's probably my biggest regret that we should have been investing from a younger age, but it just wasn't something that either of us really grew up with. And until we started listening to podcasts, that's when we started investing. So now we ended up subdividing the block of land that we bought, and we sold half of it it was during COVID, maybe it was 2021, I think, and paid off a big chunk of pretty much paid off most of the mortgage that we had on our principal place of residence. And then we still had a little bit. And then we were always going to build a holiday house down there. But then we just decided we don't need a holiday house. We could have, but we just didn't want to get into, I don't know, everything had gone up a lot post-COVID with building costs, and it was probably going to cost us minimum of 600,000 to 700,000. And we were just like, we don't want to be in that much debt for a holiday house.
Yeah.
And it's 4.5, 5 hours away from here. If we Airbnb'd it, it's just too far away for me to manage, so we'd have to be paying someone else. And we just decided we actually don't need a holiday house, and we would rather have that money that we could sell the block of land for, put into shares, and work towards our goal of having quite a good passive income later in life. So that's what we did recently.
It's really interesting, and you're the first person to ever share this opinion with me, because I'm actually not really a fan of the whole holiday house thing. If you've got an abundance of cash and you can have the best of both worlds, brilliant. But when I think about, a holiday house and whether I'd want one, I'm the same as you. I was like, well, I'd have a lot of money tied up in this one asset, but it would mean that I'd always feel obliged to go on a holiday just to there. And for me, I'd rather explore the world. So I'd rather have that money to help pay for, going to a new country every single year, and, being able to not worry about the maintenance and the wear and tear of a family home and the land tax attached to it, and just have that complete freedom to go. We could almost make our own holiday home in a different country.
That was basic. Yes,
so,
that was basically the exact conversation that we had. Pretty much, It was. We could, but then, and you're also, if we were going to have it as a holiday house, you wouldn't rent it out full time. You could have it as an Airbnb or whatever when you're not there, unless you're rich enough not to have someone, but we're not.
Yeah, or you can have the whole at the beach house, and you can have the international holidays every year. But also the things with beach houses and renting them out, the time that is most popular where you're going to make the most amount of money, like summertime,
when you want to be there.
Exactly when you want to be there. So it's not as fabulous as it sounds. Like,
no.
And obviously, if you're in a very fortunate position where you own it outright, you don't need to rent it out, and you can afford to go on all those holidays. Amazing! Like, what a fortunate position to be in, and it would be wonderful. But I'm not sold on it. So you're the first person that's ever shared.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Me, so.
And we like going down there a couple of times a year, go skiing. We don't need a house there, and we're exactly the same. We build an investment portfolio. We'll have passive income. We can do whatever we want to do within reason. But I didn't want to be going to the same place every third weekend, and so it ended up working out really well. And we agreed, and it sold. We sold it earlier this year, just before the end of financial year. So we have to pay a little bit of capital gains tax, but that's okay. We've got it put aside in a bank account until it's due next year. And and then when we got that money, we paid the rest of this mortgage off and invested the rest.
Okay, so now
we invested most of the rest.
So now I want to focus with you on the investing side, because that's the most exciting side. How did you go from being, especially being your husband being a building background, how did you go from property and bricks and mortar to a share portfolio, which is an intangible asset?
Yes.
That transition, did it feel scary at first? Like, what?
Not really, because I'd listened to hundreds of your podcasts and other finance podcasts as well. And I made my husband listen to a couple of them. One of them, the one with Peter Thornhill. And then he's like, yep, that's fine, I'm done. And like I said, none of our financial conversations have ever really been difficult. I don't think we've actually I can't think of an argument that we've ever had about money, because it has just always been clear and open communication. But again, this time was another time. And then I explained it to him, and we discussed passive income, and we looked at examples, buy these shares and you get this percentage of dividends. Like, last year they got that, so it should be better the next year, or if not the same. And he was sold just like I was. So then we did it, just transferred it and bought them.
So did you open up an online share trading account?
Yes, so we're with NAB Trade, and we already had it open with just a few small amounts in there, but So,
and what was the first investment that you made? Not that this is investment advice for the listeners, but
we bought BHP first.
Okay.
Just because that's who we worked for, and they've got good results, and that was the first parcel of shares we bought.
And then how did you decide to buy the next one? Were you buying obviously you don't need to disclose the size of your share portfolio.
No, that's okay. But
how did you work out the parcils? Just for
basically,
right, I want to invest, I want to do this.
Most of it we've done ETF, with Vanguard. So we've got the Australian Vanguard, the Vanguard Rest of World minus America, and then the Vanguard America. So we've got 3 with kind of equal amounts in each. We're probably going to have a little bit more in the Australian one. So pretty much you could say a quarter of our portfolio is in three quarters of it is in each of them. And then we've got and then we've got some with BHP, Qantas, we've got Woodside, Transurban Group, and Soul Patts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you plan on sticking with the diversified approach of ETFs?
Pretty much.
And will you be looking to add in listed investment companies to the portfolio as well?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but pretty much I think we'll stick with mostly with the ETFs we've got, because it just seems it's quite easy. And but I have been looking at listed investment companies as well. So for the moment, we're going to stick with that, with what we've got.
I'm sorry to ask all these
questions. That's fine.
helps the listeners really understand how easy this is, because it's so intimidating initially getting started investing in shares. So
yes.
Once you bought your shares, did you decide to reinvest your dividends to help the portfolio grow, or do you take the dividends and
we're reinvesting?
And
sorry, one thing that we did do to gain confidence was we opened each. This was a year or so ago, when we were originally talking about selling our block and going down this path. We each opened a Sharesies account, just the micro investing, and we just do little bits here and there, and just to see how easy it was. So we both have one each in our own names, and we do $10 here and $10 there, and just so we both were buying shares and not spending a lot of money. It was before we'd sold our block, and it kind of just dipped our toe in the market, and then it was exciting, and then that's what I guess gave us a bit more confidence to do it.
I think micro investing is great for getting started, but it's definitely not for it shouldn't be part of your long-term strategy, because you're not going to build a 7-figure portfolio with $5.
We've only got $1,000 in it, but it was really good for just starting and to see how easy it was to buy them.
And it's a great way to educate yourself, build experience and some confidence as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And then when it comes to sort of adding to the portfolio, how are you working out from, now that you've got children and the living expenses are so much more, and you are, possibly can't necessarily contribute as what you may have done in the past? Like, how are you adding to the portfolio to make sure that portfolio continues on growing?
So we don't have a mortgage payment anymore, and we have no loans at all. So we are just treating it like a mortgage, and we will pay money into the NAB Trade cash account each week, and then when there's $1,000, then we'll buy another parcel of shares. So hopefully it'll be at least hopefully it'll be at least $250 every week, and then we're aiming to have over $1 million in shares to live a good life.
And as we wrap up this episode, can you talk me through just a couple of your goals that you're working towards that really excite you and you're really passionate and connected to?
Yep. So we're also superannuation, putting a little bit extra into that.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
We did have one of the mining companies we worked for, they paid 14% if you paid in, so they paid 9% or whatever it was then, 9.5%. If you paid in 5%, they'd pay in another 5%. So they were paying,
so good.
So they were paying a bit over 14%, and then we were paying 5%. So it was about 19.5% super. So it did build up nicely back then, but we're still focused on that, focused on building the share portfolio, and really focused on just having an amazing life with our kids. That was also one of the driving factors to sell this block and have no mortgage, because our daughter's 8, our son's 4. We really love travel, and we want to, take them on a couple of overseas holidays and just have a really good time and not be stressed about money. And that's pretty much our goal. Live a great life. We love our house. And just live a great life of fun, and that's the aim.
What advice would you give someone who is, say, in their mid-20s or mid-30s, and they're just starting out on their, financial freedom journey, and they listen to this and go, all right, I want to replicate this? What advice would you give that person listening to this episode right now?
If it was regarding trying to get into the mines to make money, my advice would just be get to Western Australia and have a good time and get out there and do it. Or Queensland, wherever you want to go. But just to just do it. You can come back to, if it doesn't work out, you can come back to your old job or just give it a go and have a good time doing it. Advice regarding other financial,
like the discipline that you've had, this, the communication, the investing in shares, that's a big leap, going from being property to shares. Like,
in a relationship, just talking about it and never ignoring it, never ignore, I know people that don't log into internet banking because they don't want to see what they've spent on the weekend or something like that. Just never ignore it. You cannot bury your head in the sand. You have to just hit it full on.
Yeah.
And have a goal. Always have a goal, and always talking about it and reassessing it. Have a look and go, okay, this isn't going to work, and come up with a plan B.
Yeah.
And not be ashamed to do so.
Exactly. Like own it with pride.
And start investing as soon as you can.
Exactly.
Don't wait till I'm 42. So yeah, I wish I started investing when I was 18, but I didn't. But you know,
well, you've done pretty
today is just as good as today is do it now.
Yeah. Look, with my financial planning hat on, for me, I see what has made you guys stand out financially and build this incredible wealth and stability and security for yourself and your family is that, the key of the regular date nights, financial date nights, that's the fact you guys have caught up once a fortnight is really powerful. It makes such a big difference, keeps you on the same page. When one person's not feeling motivated, the other one can give them a bit of a pep talk and boost them back up again, and vice versa. The fact that you guys have always had financial goals that you've both been actively working on and in making intentional decisions, for those goals. This is what I think makes you guys so different. And also the other thing is, and you may not be aware of this because it's probably just something you've done just naturally, is you've clearly not overextended yourselves. You've been very cautious as to, and perhaps you've said, because might be because you've seen people do this and you've learned from their mistakes, but not overextending yourself, not getting in over your head, not getting into too much debt. It always sounds like you've kept it at a really smart level where it's been possible for you guys to make such a big dent in your debt and pay blocks off and mortgages off and stuff like that. And then the fact you've obviously got so much control and self-discipline over that lifestyle creep that was obviously echoed from when you were both young, working in the mines, not blowing all that money, but as you are today as a family, almost like pretending you've got a mortgage, but instead of the mortgage repayments, you're actually building wealth and building an investment portfolio and building that long-term passive income. They're the key things that stand out to me going, that's why you guys are different. That's why you guys are thriving financially. And that's why you guys are going to not end up with $1 million share portfolio. You're probably going to end up with a multi-million-dollar share portfolio. But that's my gut feel on a professional level.
Thank you. It's funny when you say that. Our friends used to tease us in Perth because we'd fly in, and if we were going somewhere, we'd always stay at the YHA Backpackers in Perth, and we'd always get our own room with a bathroom, but it was basic. And they'd be like, "You're making a lot of money," and we're like, "Yeah, but we're just staying here the night before we go wherever, and we don't need anything fancy." And they tease us, but that. All those little things like that, saving a few $100s here and a few $100s there makes a big difference in the end.
Yeah, especially when you're taking that money and doing something with it.
Yes.
Intentionally redirecting those savings to something that builds wealth.
Yeah.
All of us are guilty of saving money, but we end up saving money to then blow it somewhere else.
Yes.
You guys have actually had that discipline and self-control and that open communication to go, right, that's going into the mortgage, or that's going into the savings account, or the share portfolio, or the superannuation. So you guys, I think, are brilliant examples of what everyone can aspire to be and do and achieve. So thank you for sharing this story with me. I'm incredibly grateful.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm grateful to have shared it with you. It's been a really nice chat.
Oh. Well, for all the listeners, Lindsey's story is proof, evidence that with courage, intentional choices, and the power of teamwork, which makes the dream work, you can completely transform your financial future, and starting from an ordinary income, $55,000 a year. So thank you, Lindsey, again for sharing your story and the wisdom that you've gained with us today. And for everyone listening, please make sure this is a reminder that financial freedom isn't reserved for the rich or the lucky. It is built step by step with clarity, confidence, consistency, and courage. So for everyone listening, keep that at the forefront of your mind and that financial fire burning bright as you work on your own financial goals and dreams. This is SugarMamma's Fireplay.